What's up, YouTube? It's Wolf King and watch Wolf King's vids. All right, tonight we're going to be talking about true empiricism. He called in to Talk Heathen a second time to talk to Andrew Torres. He is a lawyer who apparently graduated from Harvard Law School. He talks to this guy on church and state separation, and it's really entertaining how bad he does. But yeah, he fails epically. But don't take my word for it. Let's just watch, and I'll give an analysis later. Okay. Okay. There we go.
I understood your argument to be that the First Amendment does not require the separation of church and state. Is that a fair summary of your argument?
No, I think that there's separation of church and state. I just think that it's not the way that most
cool. That's why I asked. Cool. So tell me what you think the First Amendment means.
I think the First Amendment is a restriction on the government for religion, that it helps promote the freedom of expression of religion. It's not to try to keep religion out of the schools like we've seen many secular organizations try to enforce through one-sided lawyers.
All right, it went off the rails a little bit at the end there, but
yeah, that's kind of a contradiction there. But let's see how Andrew parses it out for you here.
Let me see if I can't summarize it back to you. What you're saying is that the First Amendment does not prohibit some kind of promoting religion in public schools. Is that correct?
No, it does not. It does not prohibit that at all.
So your answer to my question is yes.
Okay, so the example that I gave the other night to try to help make my case was one of the founding fathers. The very year the First Amendment was created, Benjamin Rush promoted. He created a track to promote the Bible in the classrooms.
Totally familiar with that. So in fact, we're going to start with the facts and then work our way to the principles. Who was Benjamin Rush?
He was one of our founding fathers.
Okay, what does it mean to be a founding father?
He helped to develop this country.
Okay, helped to develop this country in what way? What did Benjamin Rush specifically do to develop this country?
I believe he was part of Congress beforehand.
Okay. He was
not going to answer.
So, well, what I want, because it's easy to take people and label them as founding fathers. What we want to do as lawyers, understanding the Constitution, is figure out the role that people played in the specific documents that are foundational to our nation's history. So Benjamin Rush was...
Jefferson, he would probably be a good example of that.
Yeah, Thomas Jefferson would be a super good example. Absolutely, right? Because Thomas Jefferson was the person upon whom James Madison relied in drafting the First Amendment. So would you agree with me then that Thomas Jefferson and James Madison's views on the First Amendment are super more instructive than Benjamin Rush's?
Well, I mean, that's sort of vague. You're saying that they...
I mean, this is where he sort of dodges questions and not actually deal with the line of reasoning that Andrew is sort of taking him on. I mean, this is typical of Ronnie here.
Have the more significant because they had their involvement in the...
Try it like this. Who wrote the First Amendment?
James Madison did.
James Madison. So, if you want to know what our founding fathers thought the First Amendment meant, and you could only ask one person in history, and I give you the choice between James Madison or Benjamin Rush, who would you pick? It's not a hard question.
I think it's that simple.
This is a super easy question. Come on.
Clearly, James Madison, obviously. And he's just dodging all over the place.
It is that simple. You get to pick one. Whose views are more instructive for what the First Amendment means? The guy who wrote it or some other
let me talk? I can give you an answer, but you're gonna have to let me talk. I think it's a bit more complex than that.
Well, you got to answer the questions directly, buddy.
Because most of
I disagree, but go ahead.
In arguments, or most of the founding fathers stood in arguments with one another, and we know that Thomas Jefferson didn't. And I have to ask, like, where are you leading with this? Because we don't agree with the idea of separation of church and state, and we have Thomas Jefferson, one of the founding fathers. No. We don't disagree with the idea of separation of church and state. Just the
Who's we, by the way? I'm just curious.
I'm assuming there's no disagreement with separation of church and state, right? We both agree that separation of church and state is there.
You and I fundamentally disagree over what that means, because your specific example is that it's okay.
So what I'm trying to say,
I mean, he disagrees, but he doesn't disagree. He's just all over the place.
there's only like out of the 56 people who were together and developing the Constitution.
That number is bullshit, by the way. That's a David Barton misinformation. There were not 56 people who drafted the Constitution. That is nonsense. Keep going.
Oh,
you have been reading.
Do you have a point to make? Do you actually have a point to make? Do you want me to talk? I'm trying.
This is where he starts getting aggravated.
Get a thought out, but you need to let me speak, okay?
I'm going to let you speak, but when you say something that's wrong, I'm going to correct you.
You haven't shown me where I'm wrong in anything yet. I would like to finish my thought. So, Benjamin Rush, who was one of the founding fathers, we need to think about it, okay? You're claiming that the separation of church and state means something specifically, okay? And I'm claiming that it means something different. So we have Benjamin Rush, one of the founding fathers. He was one of the founding fathers. The very year the amendment was created by James Madison, which was helped to be created by Thomas Jefferson. He's the one who introduced it to him. Okay, he is enforcing this or promoting this idea of the Bible in the classrooms. Can you show me any of the founding fathers who stopped that activity because it violated separation of church and state? I know certain founding fathers who didn't like the idea of the Bible in the classrooms because they thought that it was way as they got older. But the separation of church and state understood by you doesn't exist in any of the writings by any of the founding fathers.
So that's not true. But B, let me go back and answer.
Okay, well, prove it.
No, I'm about to do that. So I need you to answer a couple questions first. Okay. So number one, how many? Right. So you asked me a question. I'm doing my best here, brother. Okay. So your claim is that Benjamin Rush promoted a tract for use in public schools, and that informs our view of the First Amendment, correct?
Yes, it informs part of our view on the First Amendment.
Good. I'm glad. We're going to try and have a productive conversation. Awesome. That was 1791 when he wrote that tract, right?
It was 1791, I believe. It was the very year the First Amendment was created.
The year the First Amendment was adopted. Cool. How many public schools were there in the United States in 1791?
How many public schools? Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Yeah. So would you like to know the answer?
Okay, who cares?
2.
All right, this is where he starts getting a little indignant because he doesn't like where the conclusion sort of lead him.
I kind of think it's important, if you're going to be arguing about the view of the First Amendment as it applies today, to understand the institutions to which you're claiming the law did or did not apply back in 1791. So the answer, as far as I can tell, is
You need to get to a point, though. You need to get to your point. Where's your evidence?
on mute. Look, dude. This is a show that you are on at our leisure, and we can drop you. This is not the TE show.
Eric, how dare you? That's a prestigious TE you're talking to. All right, you can't just drop him. This guy's a scholar. All right, don't you dare scoff at him. When he demands excellence, you better deliver.
Andrew had a question, and either you're going to answer it, or we're going to move on to the next call. That is how this works. You're off mute. You're back. Hi, T.
So am I allowed to answer freely? I've done this research for years, and I can defend myself.
No, you haven't. You have not.
But I'm going to have to answer for myself.
Tell me. No. Tell me how you define research, because I know what you've done. You've read David Barton's pseudo history just so bad, major publishers have had to rescind his books. Okay?
I don't. Let me give you an example. Okay. Now, so far, I'm the only one who's been able to reference. Can I speak, please? Can I finish my thought? All I want to do is
Gosh, just get it over with. Go.
Okay. So I'm the only one who's shown a founding father who made
Get to the point. Oh, hang on.
a direct claim. Okay. Okay. Am I going to talk? Can I talk?
I've said anything.
Okay, so last time, here's what I mean by research, okay? When I was on the call last time, when I was removed from the call, the person that I was speaking to claimed, he repeated rhetoric that I'm hearing very familiar, like yourself, that Thomas Jefferson was a deist, and then I was removed and I was able
No. There is. Stop this.
If you go to the actual source,
You have me
doesn't say
on
that.
the call now, not last week.
And you are not providing any evidence, sir. I'm the only one who showed what I found father actually said.
Just tell me when to mute it.
So here's what I'm pointing out. You're repeating claims and you don't understand those claims. So when you say that
Provided evidence. Benjamin Rush did what you said they shouldn't do.
So when I asked you how many when you said Benjamin Rush wrote a tract for use in public.
Show me any founding father who did different. Anyone.
On mute.
Shut up.
Okay. Listen up. T. You said Benjamin Rush wrote a tract for use of teaching the Bible.
I like how he has to drown the guy out with speech. I mean, just let Andrew get to the point, man.
In public schools. And then I asked you how many public schools there were in 1791.
You're just spewing a lot of rhetoric. Show me a founding father who made your claim. I can prove it. You want to
See what I mean?
There you go. Yeah, thanks. So, so I kind of think you ought to know what your claim is if you're going to make it. But I have a very, very specific question for you. There is one right answer, and I will allow you to Google it while I'm talking. And that question is, do you know when the First Amendment was incorporated to the states? There is a simple answer. It is a year. It is a number where you can give the case as well. Please answer that question.
Unmuting him now. Go ahead.
Okay, so I think it's important for us to summarize that I was able to give a founding father
again.
Promoted the Bible in the classrooms.
Muted. T. I'm going to give you one more chance. This is a year and a case. You don't have to name the case, but you do have to name the year because the First Amendment did not apply to the states until it was incorporated. And so your question is worse than nonsense. When you say, show me a founding father who disagreed, of course they did not disagree because you can't disagree until the First Amendment applies to the states. And that didn't happen until this year. Would you like to say the year or would you like us to move on?
Andrew, here's the problem. The First Amendment, when it was
Done.
put in place,
This is just so. Again, I want to be super clear.
Correct.
While TE listens and is unhappy about the fact that he's suffering cognitive dissonance because he's read a book that claims to be history, and it's super hard when you realize that people in positions of authority are lying to you. And I don't use that like, okay, not all pastors or revisionists or whatever are lying. Some people are just misunderstood. David Barton is a liar. He is engaged in deliberate dishonesty and has manufactured stuff. Okay? And this argument is so preposterously bad. You could take any lawyer, and T, I encourage you, I know you don't believe me, I'm some goofball on the internet. I mean, I did graduate top of my class from Harvard Law School, but whatever. Talk to a conservative lawyer in your town. Talk to Trump-supporting lawyer and ask him if this argument makes any sense. And that lawyer, she will tell you, no, it does not.
Okay, just systematically destroyed. That was wonderful. Yeah, but I don't know why the hell he keeps doing that. Don Murphy, Andrew Torres is awesome. Yeah, he is. He is brilliant. He's eloquent. and that ranking was just amazing. He better than Ben Shapiro. But that was just ridiculous. The founding fathers were very clear with the First Amendment and the Establishment Clause. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion, and especially with the historical case that T mentioned and that Andrew invoked within that little online discussion. Patrick Henry, who was the governor of Virginia during the late 1700s, he actually did want Christianity taught in Virginia schools. He wanted to give money to churches and their attached schools as long as they taught desirable civic virtues within those schools. Now, Thomas Jefferson actually opposed that and got the Virginia Amendment added on to the separation of church and state to the Virginia State Constitution. The Virginia Amendment was actually an early model for the First Amendment and is regularly used to interpret that. Massachusetts had no such provision and was not required to follow the First Amendment yet because it didn't apply to the states, as Andrew said. But to T's question, were there any founders that opposed Rush? I mean, of course not, because they had no legal ground to do so. That's the whole point. However, Jefferson got the Virginia Constitution for religious freedom amended to prevent that exact thing from occurring, and that amendment is now the basis for our understanding of church-state separation. So that's the understanding that Therese is gaining from. That's his understanding, and that's actually what's required to follow due to the incorporation doctrine under the 14th Amendment. So, I mean, T has no leg to stand on, and he craps all over the board with this little script, and he runs back to his flock to claim victory. I mean, he actually thinks he did a good job here. This guy actually thinks that not answering questions, being deliberately evasive and getting aggravated when he gets when he gets trapped in a hole and doesn't actually want to agree with the reasoning. He thinks this is a victory for him, that this is not an L. This is actually a W. And that's just the sad thing. He has not learned anything in his 7 years of being on YouTube. He's did this with scientists with regard to biology, and now he thinks he could argue against actual lawyers who actually went to law school and passed the bar because he did a little online research himself. Hey, Dave Spitz. I know, right? What a joke to be. This is laughable. I mean, it just never ceases to amaze me what this guy will do and what he will say. He will literally take some stuff he found off of Evangelist in Genesis or from David Barton or some nonsense like that, and actually try to pass it off as if it's fact. And it just never works out for him. I mean, one would think they would actually learn, but he just does the same thing. I mean, he's just irrational. I mean, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. And this is evidence that he is not all the way up there together. Don Murphy says, Andrew has a podcast called Opening Arguments. Listen to it if you haven't already. Okay. I will definitely take a look at that. Thank you for the recommendation. But yeah, I honestly hope he makes another video or calls into them again because that's just entertaining and ultimately informative. You know, you could TE's logic is like manure. It's ultimately shit, but at least you can grow something from it. Oh my goodness, that's hilarious. Oh my goodness. All right. I think that's all I got. That's all I got to say about this. All right, guys. This has been Wolf King. Peace out. If you like this video, you know what to do. Stop by there, and peace out. Hail Satan. And And for those who are still under the coronavirus lockdown, stay safe and stay healthy. And when you have this free time, just read a book and learn more, get wise. Don't be like Ronnie. He's fucking retarded. Good night, guys.